on. All right, it is Friday, June 11th. Summer's right around the corner, although this week has felt like summer. The cicadas, they have invaded. They finally arrived, and I think everybody, so many people are underwhelmed, and they are here in full bloom. Riggo's getting ready to go to Alaska. Here's a Riggo.
All right, thank you, Todd. Yeah, you're right. When it comes to the cicadas, I'm not sure, and I think you go to different areas of the region here, you'll find them. I was over in Vienna, Virginia a couple days ago, and it seemed to me like, whoa, they really got it going on over there. And what I recall back 17 years ago, that area was the same way. In other words, so I'm thinking, well, more than likely, if there were more over there then, they're the ones that are reproducing now, so you're going to have more. I'm right next to the CNO National, what do you call it, monument or a park or whatever you want to call it. And there's plenty of cicadas over there, but boy, I remember in some of these areas over by Oakton, Vienna, you drive down the road, and if you had your window down, you could hear the cicadas crunching under your wheels. In other words, there were so many of them. I haven't seen anything like that yet, so I don't. The other part, people keep asking, "Well, they about over with?" And I said, "I don't know. I think I don't think they're just getting started, but I think there's more to come. I don't think we've seen the big wave yet." But I could be wrong.
It was late blooming.
We're looking about but what's this been about 2 weeks to 10 days when they first started showing up around here?
Big time. It en masse, yes. But the sound that you hear, like when you walk outside of this building right now, we're a concrete city in Tyson's Corner here. And it's stunning how loud it is even here.
And there's not that many. It's not that well forced in here.
That's what I'm saying is you hear the sound, and some made their ways into the lobby of our building yesterday. And then it's amazing how people are wigged out by this and freaked out. I mean, these nasty little boogers, thank God they don't sting or bite or do anything.
God, if they did.
But they are nasty.
They are. They're so big. And I remember as a kid, though, and because there's different broods, but it seemed like there would always be a brood in Kansas every summer of some kind.
Right.
Because you'd hear them and you'd see them, they'd fly around. I was always fascinated by them. It's really amazing. You let one land on you, and what do you call it? You try to pull them off. Boy, they got some feet. They got some hooks in their feet. Like they're wearing crampons or whatever, those things that they climb ice with. But I was always fascinated by them, and charmed by them actually. But we never had. They never got the 17-year jobs out there.
Oh yeah,
just a few here and
this
a few
is brood X. These are the bad dudes.
In fact, it's funny. I went out to pull the garbage cans in a couple days late, as I set them out, by the road for the county to come by and pick them up. And, of course, it's rained pretty heavily here in the last few days.
Sure
so there's a puddle or two of water. And here I see 2 cicadas in the puddle, wings fluttering.
Getting it on.
And they are connected.
That's why they're out. They basically fornicate and die.
And, to myself, I thought, this isn't right. So I'm thinking they might drown doing this stuff. So I picked them up and tossed them up in the grass and said, "You guys have a nice morning."
They're like,
go ahead and enjoy yourselves.
This ain't right. You should.
Water over here. Again, maybe they purposely were in the water.
We were getting down in the water over here.
Leave us goddamn alone here, will you? I know what I'm doing. I like it wet.
It's one of the few things about getting old. We may not see these boogers again.
I wish you wouldn't have said that, because yes, that thought has crossed my mind. Because I'm thinking in 17 years I'll be 89. I think that's right. That will not. I mean, my dad. He checked out at 87, so I'd have to beat his record.
You're taking care of yourself. I think you got that shot in your bag.
We'll see. Speaking of cicadas, the outdoors and all that stuff, I was leaving the house this morning, and I think it's like a fisherman would talk, at least back in the old days when I used to fish out in Kansas, and we'd set bank lines or limb lines for catfish. I mean, let's face it. And I'm going to get into Alaska later, but you think of Alaska, that's like majestic, and and that's fishing out.
Everything's bigger, better, and
it is. And the fish, you got so many different kinds of fish. You can fish in the ocean. You got halibut and rockfish and all this stuff. Or you can fish in the streams. You got.
They're pretty much jumping in your boat, right? Your fish. You don't.
Not so much, but once upon a time, yes, I'll bet they were like that. But in Kansas, when I grew up, let's keep that in mind, because Kansas has completely changed. They've got a lot of impoundments, and a lot of different fish species have been introduced into these waters, and a lot of them do quite well. Striped bass, as we know, I say we. I don't like calling them rockfish. They're striped bass, but the rockfish the Marylanders call, They get them up over 50 pounds out there in some of those reservoirs in Kansas.
Mm-hmm.
Walleyed pike, northern pike. These are all northern and eastern type of fish. You know, what do you call it? Minnesota and Wisconsin, Michigan. That's where those fish are. They've been introduced. They get big. So there's all kinds of things going on as far as the what do you call it? The fish. And when the hell? I can't remember where I was now. Where was I going with this?
Well, the outdoors and some of the different species.
And we were talking about the outdoors, and anyway, it was a long way of getting around to, like a fisherman that's checking bank lines and doing, you go, we had a hit last night, in other words, the bait's gone. That's where it was. And so this morning I'm backing out of the driveway and I see, I put up, and you didn't get to see it the other night when you were out there, and you were, when you were leaving, when Jake and Irene were over, you didn't get to see Stylog 13, did you? Could you really appreciate it?
Did not.
Well, I'm really proud of my deer fence. It's fully electrocuted.
Is it engaged?
Yeah, it's definitely. Oh yeah, and that's where I want to go with it. Here's what usually happens sometimes. Is that an oxymoron?
Happens some.
Man,
hey,
50%. What's in here? What's in here?
50%. It works 100% of the time. What you went Ricky Bobby?
I think I might be. So I noticed I put up a 5-strander, 5 strands of polywire, and they're about 10 inches apart. So I start at 52 inches, you go down, but the bottom wire never got installed because I ran out of wire. So I got 4 wires right now. And as I'm backing out, I noticed that 4th wire on the bottom is all loose. It's all slack. Something had a hit, like I said, something ran into that last night, and I said hello. And my guess is, though, it had to be something like I don't think it would have been a deer, but to break that like that,
it's cleanly broken?
I don't know, because it was raining like hell, and that's something I got to go back and look at, because the wire's loose, it's laying on the ground, and you can see it's just lost all its tension. But I don't know, because they say, if you hit the animal, if you hit it in front of its eyes, it'll back up. But if you hit it behind the eyes, it's going to go forward. More than likely, that's the way it works. If it goes forward, it tears your fence up. It can. If you can get it to back up, that's the sweet spot, really. So that's kind of, so I'm thinking the bottom wire, I'm going, a deer, I hate to think of it, was it Bambi that got the shot? I'm fine with it if it is, kind of, but I'd prefer it was his mom or his dad.
Hey, anybody along the C&O Canal, if you see a deer that's dazed and confused,
it's got a big blister on its nose or right behind its eyes.
It could be Rudolph.
Top of his
with your nose so
he
bright.
might try out for Rudolph next year. So yeah, I got to deal with that, but there's something going on there. And then I've been thinking it could be my old friend the raccoon. That's
Rocky.
Another possibility. Rocky might have got
his family.
He might have got tied up in it somehow.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I
didn't know it was live. I didn't know it was engaged.
I'll be looking. Yeah, I'll be walking the perimeter and checking out to see if I can find any hoof prints or paw prints. And because I'm like you said, I'm curious to know if they broke the wire. It's possible, because I had it clamped down with I had my split bolts, the very thing that we're going to talk about that I haven't arrived yet, as I bought something on what I thought I was buying with a credit card, and somehow they did the bait and switch and it went to PayPal, and it's like an automatic payment, and I ain't got no recording.
He's got no product? No proof?
No, I got nothing. So anyway, that's where we are.
Well, Riggo, I just got back from a little mini vacation down at Smith Mountain Lake, which I'd never been to before.
Really?
And spent some time with the family. And it was just spectacular. And so I want to hear, what you're getting ready to go to Alaska here with Coco. And how long are you guys staying?
We will be gone 1 week. We'll leave a week from yesterday, and then we return the following Thursday.
Very nice. Well, this lake was beautiful. You got to do all kinds of activities, from boating to fishing to grilling out. Just the weather was nice for the most part, and just a lot of fun activities. So I haven't fished in 25 years.
What was last time? Do you recall the last place you were when you fished?
It was out. It was down in Florida. We were out in the ocean, and it was awful.
Now, you used to live in Florida 10 years ago or so.
Yeah.
Not quite 10 years. You
And
never fished it
did
when you
not,
were there.
Did not fish while
What were
I
you
was
doing down there? You specifically went down to fish years ago?
No, it was
Who
a
were you
spring
with?
break type of deal, and we chartered a boat and
Where you
a-
had some of your knucklehead friends with
Yes.
you? Oh, okay.
And we were going to pay the man after about 3 hours because it was rough. It was nasty. It was terrible. We're like, we'll pay you $100 to take us back now.
Yeah.
but there were other people on the boat, and they're like, nope.
Oh, you were on a party boat.
It was about 20 of us. It was about
Yeah, that's a
20 of
party
us.
boat.
Yeah. And so that wasn't enjoyable. But this was fun on a lake, and I had my nieces and nephews there, and Uncle T caught the first fish, and they were all a little bitter.
It was
a
also
little
the
salty.
biggest fish.
It
right?
was, and it wasn't very big, but it was a fish, and it was on the hook, and I caught him right at dusk.
I got to start somewhere, but I'm thinking to myself, you call that fishing?
Yeah, well, that's
got a
right. That's
bluegill?
right.
What about this big?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Well, that bluegill would have been mighty good with some eggs in the morning, for sure. I used to eat a lot of
We
that.
did a little catch and release.
I was going to ask you, though, you lived in Alaska for a couple of years, right? Or a year and a half?
A year.
Did you ever fish while you were up there?
Did not
weird.
get the opportunity, which is a big regret. A big regret.
Yeah, and you were right. You were right in the heart of it. You could have got it done.
Yeah.
Did they ever give you when you went up there, the citizens up there, and you were in Anchorage, right?
Yep.
Did anybody ever say, "Hey, listen, you're new here. One thing to be careful of: make sure if you see a moose, give it a wide berth." That type of stuff. Did anybody ever give you any kind of advice? That kind of stuff.
No, but I will tell you this: that one of the most amazing things I've ever seen, and this was this moose. And when you see a real moose in person, how large an animal is, and this thing was massive. This moose had gotten into the outskirts of the city where we lived, hit a metro bus, knocked the bus. It had seen its reflection, and I think it might have been mating season or whatever. And it hit this bus and flipped the bus.
A bus?
A bus. A large, like the metro buses we see around here. The bus is boom over here, and the moose was down. The moose was bloodied. It didn't work
But he
out for the
wasn't dead?
moose. No, he was still. They came in to like put him out of its misery type of
Oh,
deal.
they did.
I had never seen anything like, and the damage that it did to this bus.
Yeah. Well, they're dangerous on a lot of levels. And boy, I was because I was talking to Coco last night. Her sister Hannah was over there, and Hannah's been to the same lodge with Slim, but she was 4 years older.
Yeah, I
think,
saw
when
the
she went,
pictures of
4 or 5
her.
years old.
It's just amazing.
But so we kind of was rehashing it, and Hannah said, "Oh, you remember that time we saw the moose in Anchorage?" And I said, "Yeah." And you remember, in other words, we got to talking about it and saying, and then somebody said, "Well, are they dangerous?" And I said, "Well, actually, what I've heard is moose cause more problems with people in Alaska than bears
Yeah,
do."
they got an attitude.
And there's probably more of them too, but it gets down to it. And there's two kinds of moose really: the bull moose that's in heat, and the mother moose that's got a calf with her. If you come across that, like I said, give them a wide berth. You don't want to push. You don't want to push those animals. But what you're saying, there's a couple things. One, I was trying to describe to them. We got 10-foot ceilings at our house, and I was trying to tell them that a full-grown bull moose will easily stand 6 foot tall at the shoulder. So that meant, like I was telling him, I said, so if I'm standing at the top, my head is probably even with the top of his shoulder. So then the head and the rack go up. I said his rack would be scraping the roof, or would be scraping our ceiling. And when you're thinking of standing, that animal just keeps getting bigger and bigger. And the other thing about a moose, because they're so long-legged, because they wade in the swamp and do all that stuff, what happens a lot of times, and more people are probably killed by this kind of a moose attack than any of them, is the moose that wanders out onto the road. Mm-hmm. Because if you think of this animal, the full bulk of that animal is standing about, 5 feet off the ground, 4 or 5 feet, somewhere like that. So when the car hits it, it snaps the legs, and that animal comes down and goes right through the windshield.
Oh, yeah,
and
you got
just
no shot.
Wipes out everybody.
What it did to this
Occasionally
bus?
a deer will do that, but
it was stunning.
Yeah.
We were trying to figure out how.
that's an animal butting. This is where you're running into the moose, and you can't avoid it. And it's like 1,200-pound animal. It's like,
my goodness.
I don't even want to think about what happens to people that it basically just crushes you, it takes your head off, whatever.
So you getting all the accoutrements ready for your trip, or are you going to travel light?
No.
And let Slim take care of business out there at the lodge.
Slim told me, because I called him and said, listen, I got a level wind, I got a spinning rig. I said, what because I couldn't remember pound.
The test?
Yeah, I can't think of exactly. All of a sudden, I'm kind of blank on that. But in other words, how the strength of the line, pound test.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm kind of like, I'm going fishing. Anyway, I told Slim, I said I got 10 and 15. And I think that's what it was. And I think he says, well, we put 12 on all of ours because there's two. This is where it gets into the technicalities. Because he said, we've got reels and all that stuff up here, which he does. He's got all the equipment you need. But I'm going, but I don't want to use other people's. Not that they got germs and all that, but it's like I kind of like to have if you ever catch King Ring-a-Ding, you want to have the rod and the reel to go this one right here, this one. So you rent gear and all that. That ain't who I am. So I got all checked out, and I think I put 15-pound test. But the reason he was telling me that is because in the spring the fish aren't as big. In the fall they get bigger. So you go with a little bit lighter line in the spring, you go with a little bit heavier. But he says we don't do it. We don't go back and forth. We just run with 12-pound tests and let it go at that. So anyway, to answer your question, I'm taking probably a couple fly reels and a couple fly rods, and I'll take a spinning reel and a bait casting reel and 2 rods for each one of those. Then I got my flies I will take for the actual trout, like a lot of bunny leeches and stuff like that. And I'm trying to think, and then it gets down to your rain gear and that kind of stuff. I was thinking literally when I was driving over here and it was raining, and you're out on the road where, all the mist and all the stuff with the cars driving. I'm thinking, well, that's the kind of stuff we very well could end up be fishing in. So we'll see. I think, and the most important thing of this whole thing is Coco. The last thing you want her to do is be uncomfortable. And that's where, once again, I think we needed to Dude's at the dentist right now. Otherwise, that she would be here with us. But that's where I would need to, once again, so for Dude could say, oh, so you want to get into this beef. because
another talk.
Because the beef would be, hey, dude, I've been trying to get you to try on your long underwear. I've been trying to get you to try on the pants to wear over the long underwear. I need you to try on another pair of pants, hunting pants that I got for your mom, some wax cotton pants. And dudes go, yeah, I'll get to that later. It's like, I'm going,
I'm busy, Pops.
Time's running out. So it's kind of like I'm losing my patience or anything, but at some point within the next day, I guess maybe later this afternoon, we'll say, Coco, now we're going to go try this stuff on. Because if it doesn't, I'm kind of responsible. It's like, but there's always that side of you that goes, okay, you know so much. Just wear what you want to wear.
Teenagers.
Yeah.
They know it all and they know nothing.
And the other part of it is, of course, which this is the part that'll really get interesting, because Coco's a fisherman now, I will tell you that. But she's fished where there are no bugs. We're driving someplace the other day, and I don't use air conditioning unless it's absolutely positively you have to.
Or the radio.
Or the radio. Yeah, I don't like taxing my battery, I guess, or my alternator. But so I had the windows down and we're backing out, and Coco says, can we roll the windows up and put on the air conditioning? I go, no, we don't need that. We're not going to get out on the interstate. And she goes, yeah, but those, because one flew in the other day and landed on me. She says, yeah, but cicadas might fly in here. I'm going, dude, come on. You're going to Alaska? But I've got the netting that goes over your head, so that'll help a lot. But, God, I'm thinking to myself, but I will say this, and I've been up there so many times. I've been in places where the bugs are ridiculous. I remember one time I was fishing over in King Salmon, and I was wearing shorts. And, of course, I probably had been drinking a little bit. But I remember down looking at my legs, my lower legs. And when I looked at my legs, because it was also, I was trying to take a photograph. This guy had caught a pretty nice king salmon there, and we were trying to get a photograph of it. But I looked down, Todd. I thought I was a gorilla. My shins were both black. It was white socks. I had all these white socks on me. Oh. And I finally got them off. I had probably somewhere between 30 and 50 bites on each leg. It was, and I never, you got white socks, no-see-em, mosquitoes, and deer flies, or black flies, or what do you want to call them. The black flies of all of them, my thinking is, that's one of those things that if they land on you don't notice, they can be a problem because they actually take a bite out of you. I mean, you'll see animals take off run. I mean, they've got some choppers on them. But the other ones are really more of an annoyance. Like I said, the black flies will hurt.
Well, she's going to see bugs the size of about the size of her new baby kitten.
Except for the fact, well, they got all sizes because I said, there's a reason why they call them no-see-ums. hey,
What the hell?
What is it? I can't see it.
What the hell?
So yeah, I think all the ducks are getting all lined up here in a row, and like I said, we're less than down a week to go. And it's so weird how you think it's so far out, and next thing you know, it's on top of you. So we're looking forward to it.
Well, that's going to be awesome, and we might even have you guys check in and do a show from there. That could be fun.
That's what I'm hoping we can do.
That's what
I'm hoping we could do.
And speaking of bugs, we're glad to see that COVID restrictions are being lifted everywhere for the most part. Washington Nationals, 100% capacity, started last night, but the game got rained out. DC's lifting, so it's great to see that the vaccination rates are continuing to go up. But what's interesting, coming off the Washington football team's minicamp this past week.
Oh, they had their minicamp.
Yeah, and so this is where there are a lot of players and coaches around the league that are not getting vaccinated. It's an individual choice. And
coaches too, huh?
Coaches too. So what was surprising to me was less than 50% they're reporting of the Washington football team of the players have been vaccinated. So there's a real conundrum. I mean, we were laughing last night, relatives going, good Lord, the season is right around the corner. I mean,
a month they'll be in training camp,
yes.
Right?
Yes.
A little bit more in a month, 5 weeks.
So, and this is from Montez Sweat. And he says, obviously, the coaches want everybody to be vaccinated to move freely around the facility and with traveling and all that type of stuff. But everybody has their own beliefs and they're entitled to their own decision. So they actually brought in a leading doctor who was part of one of the vaccines to speak to the players earlier this week, to try to, alleviate any fears and answer questions, and because it could be a real problem come training camp in the regular season. If you're not vaccinated, you basically stay in all the protocol and the limitations, wearing masks while practicing, not being able to dine with your teammates. And
constant testing.
Constant testing. Basically, everything that all the players had to do last year, you're still part of that. So it's almost like if you have half of your team, or even 30% of your team, and you've got a different set of standards and practice, I don't know how you do that.
How would you? So even at practice, they have to wear masks.
Yes.
They're unvaccinated.
Yes.
It's a problem. To me, I would think the league's going to have to change. They're going to have to change something, I would think, because this is a legal problem. Like if it has, so many tentacles to it. Because where do you go with this? You really, if that's the case, and you're going to have these protocols in place that the league has put in place, that this is what it is. If you don't get vaccinated, it's basically the protocols of last year. If you're vaccinated, it's like it was in 2019. How do you actually? I don't know how you're going to integrate all that stuff, and if you can't force these people to take, Montez Sweat has a legitimate point of view, but I don't see at some point in time, I don't really know, and of course that's a whole other question, so there's no sense in getting into that. But I don't know from a legal standpoint. You've obviously got the Players Association,
right,
who will stand behind the players that don't want to be vaccinated. But you I don't know where are you on that? Because on the one hand, where everybody had to wear a mask, and everybody did a pretty good job of it for the last year or so. I'm sure there were a few people that refused to wear, but they couldn't get into the building. They couldn't go anywhere. Right. You had to stay home. If you're not wanting to do that, where does it where a corporation such as the NFL can mandate, or I don't know where they go with it. To me, I'm thinking, well, if you don't want to do that and you refuse to do it, it's almost like, well, then how? It's what you said. How are you ever going to get this resolved? I think it's going to be so complicated that let me put it this way, and I'm getting very long-winded on this thing. It's unenforceable. In other words, this is basically what the NFL, and they do a great job of it. This isn't going to be reality, I will be honest with you, Todd. How can it be reality?
Right.
There's going to be so much, it's going to be so sloppy as far as guys with masks, without masks. It's like, are you kidding me? But they're going to make it I guess, the government to give it the optics that, hey, this is what we're doing, but that's not.
Well, John, I will tell you legally,
it's not feasible,
and it's a business legally, because here at Baronsweig Leonard, our law partners that we work with, and we have a lot of cases like this flowing through. Employers have the right, if you don't get vaccinated, they have the right to terminate you. There's only two outlets: a physician.
So you're saying the NFL could terminate these people?
Yes. I'm sure within the context of the players' union, they're going to fight and everything else. But if they decide to play hardball, I mean, it's set. And if religious reasons or a legitimate physician that you have an underlying medical condition, and here's why. And that has to be, documented.
But for religious reasons, you would not have to get vaccinated.
If yes. And how far an employer can ask you for proof of either of those, I do not know. But I know businesses around here right now. I know people that have lost their jobs
because they refuse
to get vaccinated.
Well, the only religion I can think of would be a Christian Scientist, I would guess, right? And they don't believe in medicine. I thought that. I mean, I don't know 100%. I'm not really up on their orthodoxy, whatever it is.
Don't know. Don't know.
So I don't know. It's a problem, and I don't. And the other thing is, you can't. They're going to say, well, we're willing to work, but we can't. We're not going to take this shot. And then the league's saying we have to wear this mask and all this stuff, which is discriminatory on the one hand, but.
This could be a far bigger deal than we realize right now with training camps being so close. So a couple of teams are at 75, 80%.
The only thing I can think of is they got to back up and go, all right, we're going to cave it's like last year. We got to do the same protocols as last year because there's no way. This is in a way what the league does, and they do a great job of it. Is convincing, basically creating the illusion. They talk about and they all walk around puffed out, about how great their drug policy is. They don't test for growth hormone,
right?
Human growth hormone. I'm going. That ain't what kind of steroids, but no human growth hormone. What are you telling me? So this is the same thing. Oh, this is the way it's going to be. If you haven't been vaccinated, you have to do going to be like last year, and everybody else will be walk around all this stuff. And the reality is, there's going to be guys down that locker room. Are they going to take a shower with their mask on? How's this going to work? Or is it once again everybody who's unvaccinated? You got to go in that area and shower with your mask on, and everybody. What are you doing? But you can't do this.
But John, let's face it, they make their own rules. So why?
Well, clearly.
And so for them to make a mandatory that is not out of line with today's standards and legal.
No, I agree. I mean, I'm on the side of if you're going to have this and you're going to do it, you're going to have to enforce some stuff.
Right, like you don't play or you don't get paid.
And that's where it gets weird because the player's going to say, "Well, I'm ready to play, I want to play, but the leagues tell me I have to get this shot or I can't play." That's where the Supreme Court will end up deciding.
Well, we'll keep a close eye on it here, and we will check in with you from Alaska, and then once you get back from Alaska, like I say, that season is right around the corner here.
We get back on the 24th, and I'm guessing camps will start, in about that same, the 20th, somewhere
of July.
Yeah, but I mean.
Then we got another month.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
In 1 week. So it's like 5 weeks.
Yeah, I believe Washington football team is July 30th.
I'm still scratching my head on how they're going to pull this off with all the people that are.
Yeah, the union. They know they got a big problem on their hands.
So this won't quite be settled. We'll see. Riggo out.